There's only three things we can train as humans. You can train your craft, you can train your body, and you can train your mind. So when it comes to performance, the best of the best, the highest performers across the planet, they're not leaving one of those three up to chance. They are deeply investing in all three of them in a world-class way.
Dr. Michael Gervais is a high-performance psychologist.
I am not interested in somebody being the best in the world. I am interested in people that want to be their best.
Who works with world-class performers across sport, business, and the arts to revolutionize the way we approach mindset, resilience, and purpose.
Where do you start with somebody who's watching who's saying, like, I want to be one of the best in the world, or I want to be a high performer? Where do we start?
First, I kind of cock my head and I go, really? Really? Is that really what you want? And so we need to train differently than the athletes. We train mental skills the same way we train physical skills, sets and reps. Being confident is a mental skill. Deep focus is a mental skill. Then you want to build a psychological framework, which is how do you understand yourself in this turbulent world? Those are the big five: self-discovery, mental skills, psychological framework, recovery practices, and this is the golden thread that runs through everything.
The Icons is a show where we learn life lessons from those who may shape the icon in each of us. And today we explore the mind and what it takes to unlock each of our highest ability with Dr. Michael Gervais.
I mean, I'm fascinated by your work. Just to start there, I'm fascinated by your work. But how do you explain your work? Like if you meet somebody at a party, how do you explain what you do?
It takes time to really explain what I do. But the shorthand is I am by trade and training a high-performance psychologist. And then what sits underneath of that is the study of human flourishing, the study of human excellence. And so the training actually has provided me this incredible opportunity to go to the frontier of human performance, like right at the edge of where the world says that shouldn't be done, that can't be done. And it's in those environments that is the greatest working laboratory for how the mind works. And then, I see my job as being able to decode, deconstruct, and bring back the fruits from the frontier in a way that, I could explain it to my grandmother. And that's what I'm trying to do. And so, again, that's like a double click, triple click into it. But the shorthand is I'm trained as a high performance psychologist.
What I find fascinating about that is that, for a long time when I heard performance, my brain would go to how fast do you run, how sharp do you think, whatever, like the technical thing. But you're really making a connection between that performance and the mind. And you're talking about this edge. Like, what are you learning about that edge?
Okay. There's only three things we can train as humans. So when we think about performance, let's stay here for a minute. You can train your craft, you can train your body, and you can train your mind. So when it comes to performance, the best of the best, the highest performers across the planet, they're not leaving one of those three up to chance. They are deeply investing in all three of them in a world-class way. So performance is the ability to express oneself. And it could be on canvas, it could be on a playing field, it could be in a boardroom, it could be in a living room. Like there's lots of canvases. And the best of the best of the best deeply invest in all three because they know the pain that they experience when their mind tightens up, their physiology changes, their ability to access their craft, the thing that they've spent so many hours training, feels like it can't be reached. Athletes don't choke. People do not choke because they don't eat on the playing field. The way that we think about choking is that we're choking off access to our craft. So the aperture tightens up and we can no longer reach the parts of our craft that we want to pull forward to the surface to express. So all three of those are the investment to be able to perform in an artistic way, on demand, in the most hostile, rugged, high stress, high speed environments that you could conjure up. And again, that's the working laboratory that I spend so much time fascinated by and investing in.
So, I mean, we're in your podcast studio, the Finding Mastery podcast studio. I mean, thanks for the opportunity to be here. But that even just breaking it down like that. So there's the craft, there's the body, and there's the mind. And your focus in lots of ways is on the mind and how it applies to those other two, it sounds like. So what do those top performers do differently than most of the rest of us? Is it just recognizing they need to focus on those three, or are they doing something different? Especially when it comes to the mind.
There is an uncommon commitment to get to the truth. They are truth tellers. So the best in the world are uncommonly focused and committed to getting underneath to really understand what it takes for them to explore what they're capable of. So the best in the world tend to be truth tellers. And that in and of itself is so rare, it's so special that when they walk through an environment, there's a phrase in sport, game recognizes game. When they walk through an environment, there's a demanding and exacting presence that they have because they understand that time is the commodity. It's fleeting, it's temporal. The NFL, for example, stands for not for long. So we have a compressed time exchange. We only get today to be our very best. Let's be great in our meetings. Let's be great in film study. Let's be great on the field, in the weight room. Let's be great in the hallways. Let's be great across the board to compete, to be our very best together, so I have to compete and they have to compete to line up thoughts, words, and actions in a way that allows for the person to be the most powerful that they possibly can be. And then that allows them to be a great teammate. So it's a commitment to self. And again, they are truth tellers. And it's a commitment to your teammate. And again, they are truth tellers. So it's not easy.
Wow.
It's exacting. It's demanding. The standards are real. Most people are fascinated by the idea of becoming their very best. And they love it. And we throw that word around, like, be your very best, be authentic. I'm telling you right now, like, that is a difficult, scratchy, itchy, irritating, unsettled commitment to really understand what you're capable of. And it's available to all of us.
Whoa.
The best in the world are truth tellers. Be a truth teller.
Whoa. I mean, that really hit me. I don't think I've ever heard a performance spoken about in that way, where it's this commitment to the truth and all the good that comes from that and all of the challenges that probably come from that too.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
You know, think about how many times you lie a day to be kind. That comes up, you know, like little things, and they're little lies. Then, you know, the science is that most people lie every day subtly to be gentle, to be kind, to not be unbecoming, to not have somebody feel bad. We call them white lies. And I'm not saying that the best in the world don't do that, but I am suggesting that they're more interested in something else than having social approval. And I do want to unpack that, the way that we get contorted or corrupted to be our very best. But I'll kind of round this home with Misty Copeland is a longtime friend of the Mastery Lab. She is one of the best. She broke radical frontier in ballet and dance. So she was one of the first African-American ballet dancers to really shape a landscape that had never been shaped before. So when you listen to how she speaks, there is a exacting nature to it. There's a delicateness to it. However, she is fundamentally committed to an honest approach to life. Because if she were to tune to the other's narrative about who she is, she never would have made it. So she had to have an attunement to the signal within, not the noise outside. And you and I and she, we are tuning forks. And what we're tuning to is materially important. So if you're not tuning to, call it the truth, just as a placeholder right now. And I sound like I'm talking about the wise ones, the Gandhis and yes. And world's best are also tuning to something. And it is not the noise of the world. If you tune to the noise of the world, I think you're in a very dangerous state. And so understanding the noise to signal ratio and what you're going to tune to, it's an engineering term. It's also a psychological term. The signal to noise ratio. And the best in the world, if they're tuned to the signal, there's something special that can happen.
Whoa. I mean, so much of this is hitting it probably for those who are listening. And my guess is that, you know, so many people know of your work, but there's some people who will be being introduced to you through this. And you bring up Misty, but what are some of the outcomes that you've been a part of? Like, what are some of the best that you've worked with, whether it's people or companies or outcomes?
Cool question. Let's cut across three domains. So I'm fortunate to be able to understand. Um, I'm fortunate to be invited to the frontier with people that are pushing the edges and the boundaries of what is possible. And so I've been able to see lots of experiences of what works, what doesn't work. And my approach before I answer the question is to make sure that whatever I'm adding to that environment, first is grounded in science, and secondly, works in the world of speed and accuracy, works in those rugged, high stress environments. So that's the intersection that I'm always tuning to. And some of the outcomes that would be widely known, one in the adventure world, Felix Baumgartner and the Red Bull Stratos Project sings at the high table of human potential for sure. So Felix had this idea, and he wanted to be the person that jumped from the highest place on earth. So he assembled through Red Bull a team of aerospace engineers to build a capsule that could go to 130,000 feet. Big air balloon, a capsule that was built just for this mission, and spacesuit just in case. So 4 years into this 7 or 8 year project, he ran straight into a crisis. And that crisis was he became afraid and he became terrified. He needed to be in the suit in the capsule for 5.5 hours to ascend to 130,000 feet. And what happened was the brightest minds in aerospace weren't sure if when he jumped from 130,000 feet, there's like there's a frame of reference there that's nearly impossible, but the brightest minds weren't sure if as he passed through the speed of sound, if his body would go in, think about that for a minute, 1,000 miles an hour, like Mach 1. If his arms and his legs would be at a different tension and stress point than his head and his torso. So if his head and his torso is Mach 1, but his arms and legs have a different drag on them, would they rip off?
I can feel my face. Yeah, as you're saying, the scrunching up. I mean, I can appreciate. So when you're saying the terror part, I can appreciate where this is coming from.
And that was only one of the 5 very dangerous parts of this mission. One of 5. And so he ran full. When you are fundamentally committed to understanding what you're capable of, you've got this idea of a compelling future. You back in a set of capabilities that you need to make that thing true, not just an idea, but a potential. You're going to run into barriers. You're going to run into the edges where you are out of your depth. So he ran out of his depth in his psychological skills. So that's when the team brought me in. And I'll never forget. We're sitting around this round table. This is the first 10 minutes of my meeting the team. And it's these, let's call it old, the crusty kind of old heads in aerospace. And they are like ex or former test pilots, experimental pilots that they don't know if this rocket is going to work or this new aircraft built by Lockheed Martin is going to work. Like amazingly high-end, intelligent risk takers. And there's about 8 of them, and we're sitting around this table, and they're kind, and they were intense. And they said, look, we're going to just cut to the chase, Dr. Gervais. We're not with you. We've never seen somebody come back from this level of fear. We have never seen it. And we are not going to have blood on our hands. We don't know what you do. No disrespect to you. We're not interested in you convincing him to get back in this thing. And I thought, this is great. This is they're truth tellers. And I said, well, what do you need to see and understand and feel to have regained trust in him and his abilities? They said, oh, it's easy. He needs to be in the capsule, in the suit for 5.5 hours to manipulate the gas and oxygen exchange, to be totally dialed in, to be clear thinking in a simulated experience on the ground in a pressured capsule. And he needs to be great for 5.5 hours. He can't be in there 5 minutes. I said, great. Thank you. Let me go to work. Let me see what we have. And then let's set up a series of tests to see if we can get to that 5.5 hours. So then it's just the application of good science, application of good psychology. And we walked him through a fear extinguishing protocol, not fear management, but to extinguish the fear. Because at that level of extreme hostility that he needed to operate in, I didn't want him to try to manage fear. He needed to not have it. It's possible. According to good research, it's possible. And so we did it. Story writes itself in history. He jumped from 130,000 feet, 128 to be exact, and he passed through the sound barrier. The whole thing was like amazing. So that's one example of when you apply the science of the psychology of excellence, it can unlock something brilliant inside of any one of us. Because he was as good as he was, as skilled as he was technically and physically, he just ran into some barriers mentally. I celebrate him and them that are able to do that. The other would be the Seattle Seahawks, NFL. So now we're in traditional stick and ball sport. My partnership with the head coach there, Coach Carroll, we ended up building a business on the back of how we help switch on that culture and train the psychological skills of everybody in the building. So we ended up winning a Super Bowl in dramatic fashion, our third year. And the next year we got back to the Super Bowl and we lost in dramatic fashion. So we got this really rich understanding of what it takes for us to be our very best and what it takes to be our very best, but be just a hair short of winning a second one. So winning at the highest level, losing at the highest level, there's a lot of clarity there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd point to Microsoft. Satya Nadella, I think, is the most significant CEO of our time. That's a big statement. His organization, he's running 228,000 people in his organization. It's one of the most significant tech organizations on the planet. And he is leading the organization with empathy and a full commitment across 228,000 people for them to train their psychology to go from know-it-alls to learn-it-alls, to untap, to unlock the potential that lies dormant inside of his people by making the fundamental commitment for them to train their minds just like world-class athletes do. And we started working with them, I think it was 13 or 14 years ago, 2014. So maybe that's 11 years ago. Okay. So 11 years ago, 2014. Yeah, I think it was. It was his first month on the job. And the company, with all of the success that he's built, through his team and his strategy, we've had an up-close view of his company going from 300 billion to 3 trillion. So when I think about successes across 3 verticals, those all sing at the high table of like an amazing expression of potential.
I mean, and what's interesting is that I think all of us listening can remember cheering on or following one of those stories or all of those stories, right? I mean, these are stories we know, but you also have this twist where you keep saying, okay, that's great for the best in the world, but this is also possible for every one of us. What's the every one of us part? Like, where do you start with somebody who's watching, who's saying like, I want to be one of the best in the world, or I want to be a high performer? Like, where do we start?
First, I like kind of cock my head and I go, really? Really? Is that really what you want? And I start there. And that's the same place I start with those high performers as well. When you ask people, and maybe you can ask your family members, what do you really want? Most of them don't say, I want to be a high performer. Most of them say something pretty reflexive, like I want to be, and actually the listener could fill it in before I answer. I want to be happy. And I say, is that it? So you don't want other emotions to really, be part of your ecosystem? And they go, no. Yeah, I want to have a full range, but I want to be more happy than the other emotions. And so then I double click again, like, what do you really want? So to get them to open up an authentic way what they really want in this short amount of time on this rock that's spinning around the sun, in this body that I don't know how you inhabited or I did, with this made up language that we're trying to do something with. Like, it's wild when you start to think about it. What do you really, really, really want with your time here? And then we start from that place. And then, because any other commitment is a complete abandonment to this authentic, real seed of what you really, 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 really want. And that needs to be foundational. Then we go to like, okay, well, what gets in the way? And what I need to understand are all of the pain or the core pain sources or source for you, because that's the one that will forever be a block if you don't shine some light on it, embrace it, wrestle with it. For me, I feel like it's a little bit of a dragon that we need to, get a relationship with. It's the more powerful part of us, but it can also breathe fire and burn us, but it can also be this massive like service for good. So we have to get down underneath to the pain of it. And then from that place, make a fundamental commitment to do the work. So what do you really want? What's getting in the way? And will you, or are you willing to make a fundamental commitment? And so those two words, fundamental commitment, hold a lot of weight. The best of the best of the best, when you look at them and you see them on the podium and you see the celebration, the ticker tape and the gold medal or the trophy or whatever, it's so easy to say, gosh, what an amazing life they have. And I'm just not that talented physically, or I wish I knew my thing, or I want to be. No, we're missing the real narrative, which is they structure their day every day fundamentally to get to the edge of what they're capable of, because that's where the unlock happens. So they make a fundamental commitment to get right to the edge, emotionally, physically, psychologically, if you will, because it's in that messy edge where you are not buttoned up, where it is ugly, where you are vulnerable when people are watching in practice and game day, when people are watching, when the critics are alive, and you are fundamentally committing your days to get to those places as often as you can throughout your day, because that's where the unlocks happen. That level of courage and vulnerability is very taxing and very difficult. It's available for you. It's available for me. It requires an honest commitment to doing the work, an examination of the pain and the blind spots and the things that are going to hold you back. And it's not somebody else. It's not what they did to you as a kid. It's not the things that you experienced. It's the way that you use your mind to make sense of your past is something that can be changed. And it is a deep understanding of what you really, 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 really want in this world. So those would be the three kind of pillars, if you will, to get to it.
As you're describing this, it's cool to think about. One of the things that's fascinating about these shows, I know you meet with and work with some of the highest performers in the world, and we've had some conversations with those who are elite. And then to hear your breakdown of the study of those people.
Yeah.
I just have the conversation, but you're breaking down the study. Our first show was with Chris Bosch, and he was talking about what he learned from Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Two NBA Hall of Famers. And I asked what he learned from Kobe, and I thought it was going to be taking 1,000 shots at 4 a.m. And he just laughed and he said, it's how to get back up off the ground. Like, to be that good for that long, to be that great. I mean, you have to be willing to dig in and commit to things that will get you up when it's so hard. And most of us just would tap out. Like, most of us wouldn't handle that. And I guess that's my curiosity with this is Kobe just wired to do that? Or do you find that if you had time with most of us, you could find a way to hit that unlock code? Or would most of us tap out?
Yeah, that's a cool question. Let me kind of open the aperture one more level to answer that. Is that what I'm describing is really intense.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone wants that. That's why I like first cock my head, like, what do you really want? And so we need to start there. And I'm not interested in somebody being the best in the world. I am interested in people that want to be their best. And I want to be more like a panda bear. Okay? They roll through the world like free. They play. They know that there's no predators in their world. So because there's no predator for a panda bear. So there's just this internal freedom and fun and joy that they possess because they're not constantly managing threats. That's what I really, really want for myself. What I really, really, really want for other people is to know that there is so much more. And there's just a starting place that is available to all of us. So, what's the starting place for most people? Um, it might be something as simple as like a gratitude practice. It might be as simple as investing in the study of your own psychology through therapy or through reading or listening to your show or the wise woman or man in your neighborhood or in your clergy or whatever it might be, like just studying yourself a little bit more. Gratitude, optimism, there's just these very simple practices to help unlock something as a beginning. So now, okay, so there's a easier place to start than like that intense. So the people I work with that I'm bringing forward in this conversation, they are already on the world stage and they're looking for like a 2% unlock. For folks that are early in their path, I would say it's not about high performance. It really is about embracing the path of mastery of self and mastery of craft. And that is unique for each person. So Kobe was clearly on the path. And if you think about a hierarchy for just a minute, mastery of self and craft is kind of the artistic way of life. And underneath of it is a high performance life. So there's a pretty prescriptive treadmill to get on for a high performance life. You know, a set of physical, technical, and mental practices that we can talk about. But I just want to widen it a little bit about this concept of mastery of self. It's warmer. There's a contour to it. It's a feeling of being at home with yourself. Like it's different. So now drill into Kobe. We don't know now I'm putting on a science hat. We don't know if people are wired with a predisposition, genetic coding, if you will, or it's learned experiences early on, or it is something we don't know. So likely the interactionist as a position is more true, that there's some DNA stuff, there's early life experiences, and then there's some decisions that they make. Is Kobe different? He certainly is somebody that we look at and go, how does he do it? Is he resilient? Now I can tell you about how resilience is built, but I don't know the psychological broth of Kobe to really understand if he's born different or shaped differently. It's probably both.
You bring up these terms, resilience. You brought up mindset. It's almost, if you could help me almost like sort through it all. Like I hear mindset training, I hear mindfulness training, resilience training. I don't even know if myself or most people would know, like, what's the difference here? Like, what are we talking about? Are they all the same thing? We're just using different terms? Or when you're talking about these different training tools or techniques, what are they?
Okay, great question. Let's create this snowflake world of psychological terms and see if we can make a little bit of a snowman. There'd be 5 fundamental principles to work from. Okay. Self-discovery practices. To really know who you are. What is your purpose? What is your philosophy? What are your first principles? What's the vision you hold for yourself? There's a set of practices to really know who you are. That is right at the center of this whole thing about becoming your very best, okay? Then there are mental skills. And there's a handful of evidence-based, research-based mental skills that you can train. We train mental skills the same way we train physical skills. Sets and reps. Time under tension, if you will. So what are those mental skills? You double click there. Be calm. That's a mental skill that you can train to be calm. If you are calm, you might have accidentally found it, or you had good training as a kid, or you played sport, you played football, someone taught it to you, or you could concretely and specifically train it, which is a much faster way to learn how to be calm. It comes from breathing, it comes from self-talk, it comes from framing. So being calm is a mental skill. Being confident is a mental skill. Deep focus is a mental skill. Trust of self is a mental skill. I can keep going. Then then you want to build a psychological framework, which is how do you understand yourself in this turbulent world? And how do you make sense of the world around you? Are you optimistic or pessimistic? Are you gritty and resilient, or do you fall apart when it gets hard? Like you build a psychological framework that allows you to be powerful in a very turbulent world. And there's a set of practices that sit there. Okay. Then there's a whole set of practices to recover from this intense world that I'm talking about. And that's all the stuff that grandma taught us. Like, are you eating your vegetables? Like, is your nutrition right? Are you exercising? You and I are professional sitters, like most of the people, listening and
to us.
viewing. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so we need to train differently than the athletes. So there's a different way of training our bodies so moving well, eating well, sleeping well, stressing well. There's a whole set of capabilities there. And then the last is mindfulness. Those are the big five: self-discovery, mental skills, psychological framework, recovery practices, and mindfulness. Mindfulness is the golden thread that runs through everything. Mindfulness is the practice of being more aware. More aware of what? More aware of your thoughts, your feelings, more aware of your physiological sensations, and more aware of the external world around you. When you are more aware, it's like you're swimming upstream. It's easy. You can adjust eloquently. When you struggle with awareness, it feels like you're constantly in the rapids of life. So the practice of being more aware is the golden thread that unlocks everything. It is necessary, being aware, but not sufficient. We need a host of other skills as well. I'm thinking of one of the world's biggest wave surfers that I've been fortunate to spend time with. And he nods his head to like, look, I know I'm scared. I know that I'm hesitating. I know that I'm about to die. I have to then go down into all the mental skills. I have to be great with my self-talk, which is trainable. I have to be great with my breathing to be calm, which is trainable. So we front load our mental skills, our self-discovery work, our psychological framework well in advance to going into rugged, hostile, stressful environments. Just like we do in the gym. We train in calm environments so that we're fully loaded in rugged environments, technically, physically, and now you and I are talking about that mentally. So I hope that helps to give you a framework. There's 5 factors that are most important. And then let me use this word mindset for just a moment. Okay. So that's different than mental skills. A mindset is the way that you shape and hold your lenses for a particular moment in time. So mindsets are transient. Right now, you're probably in a curious mind, right? So a curious mindset or a curious mind is like you're holding space and you're looking for ways to make sense of something. You could be in an aggressive mind. You could be in a judgmental mind. There are 5 mindsets that we believe are required to be able to toggle between to be great in this highly turbulent, highly uncertain world that we're in. And purpose mind is right at the top of it. Curiosity, being agile, being optimistic. Having an optimistic mindset is like really important, especially with the bombardment of the noise around us. And relational. Having a relational mindset, which is not about me, it's about we. And so those mindsets rest on those 5 factors that I just spoke about. So when you train those 5 factors, then you can toggle between the most fitting mindset for the demands of the environment. It is inappropriate to be in a curious mindset when you are hanging off the edge of the cliff by your fingernails. Like wow, I'm really curious. Like if I fall, how will this go? No. That's not where we want to be. Yeah, that's not, right? Oh, I'm really optimistic. If I fall, I'll be okay. No. This is like dig down, connect to your purpose, like task focused, deep focus in the present moment. So I'm getting a little esoteric here, but that's how this whole thing fits together.
Yeah, no, I think that's fascinating. I mean, it's a lot, right? But it starts to clarify the landscape of this conversation that I think we have lots of words that float around and people kind of grab hold of those words and generally talk about it, but that really lays it out. I mean, it does require a lot of training because I can imagine, all the depth that comes with those pieces.
And you can, before you take it further,
Yeah.
is that you can imagine if somebody really, really wants to be their best, they need a command of their mind. They need to really understand how thought one and thought two create emotion A and emotion B. And that study of self is basically what psychology is. And high performance psychology is the study of yourself and using as a reference point how the best in the world have studied and shared how they work. So that's all the excellence of, or the psychology of excellence is.
In doing this research for this conversation, I came across a quote of yours. 100% of the time, you have the capacity to control you. Everything else is noise.
I like that. That was good.
Yeah, that's who wrote that.
Yeah,
It feels like, because with all those different pieces, the 5 and the 5, that's a lot of moving parts. And it feels like, even just having these little anchors where it feels like, all right, 100% of the time, I've got control of me. And it probably centers people to say, okay, go back into the tools that I'm developing, go back into the stuff that I'm learning. And I don't need to search for the next book or the next thing. I can travel within.
I love that you anchored to the most foundational principle for psychology is, the phrase control what you can control and let go of the rest. It does not serve us well. It's different. It is master what's under your control. That is one of the great lessons from all of the greats. And I'm not talking about just the ones that are on modern time podiums, but like historical greats. Yeah, they want to move the world. They want to move a community, because they see a compelling future, which is under your control. And then they understand that the only things that they really can control, they can control the thoughts that they're aware of. They can control the words that they choose. They can control the behaviors that they take. And that's kind of it. I could flower this up a little bit, but if you're unaware of your thoughts, imagine a water table. Okay, so there's a container and the water table is really high. And the space between the top of the water and the top of the cylinder is what you're aware of. And below where all the water is your non-conscious. That's a really tough go. If that thing is 7/8 full and you only have this available 1/8 space to be aware of your thoughts, you want to lower your water table. Imagine if you were 50% more aware of your thoughts, of your emotions, and then once you're aware, you can do something with it. But if you're not aware and you're kind of just ping-ponged around the world, like it is hard. So best in the world, true masters, you picked up on the keyhole for the whole thing is that they have fundamentally committed to work from the inside out. And that means everything goes through the lens. Wait, is this 100% in my control? No, I got to let go of that. It's a little noisy because I want to position myself and I want to be in a position of great leverage and great power so that I can make the greatest impact. Yeah. So if I'm worried about what you're thinking about me, I am deleveraged and I am totally swimming in the noise, which I believe is one of the greatest constrictors to human potential.
People will watch this, but I feel like I'm just locked in, like personally learning from this. I find the whole conversation fascinating. And there's a lot of talk about self in what we've been covering. What's the difference between this work when it comes to an individual versus a team?
We talk about team a lot. And early in my career, I was like, yeah, what are the characteristics of great teams? And it was very unsatisfying because I could read 8 different researchers and they have different characteristics of great teams. And all of them seemed true to me. Then it's like it just hit me is that if we want to talk about having a great team, the team is the output. The team is not controllable. What is controllable is how great of a teammate each person is to each other. So now we're stripping it back down to the first principle that we spoke about. Being a great teammate to you is 100% under my control. Now, if I am feeling out of control, if I struggle with being calm and my emotions are like wildly out of check, and um, I'm very unsettled, I'm not there for you. But if I can put my life vest on first, if I can invest in my psychology, invest in my inner world so I can be fully present, now I've got all of these available resources to adjust to the people outside of me so I can be in great service of you. So if you want to be a great team, you must be a great teammate. And it's so simple to understand. And I'll give you an example. Bill Russell, one of the most winningest of all time in the NBA, 11 championships as an athlete, 2 as a coach. This is a player and a coach who's won more than just about everybody else on the planet. And we tend to think about Michael, Jordan, and Kobe, and this is the one now. He's the one. So he came up and visited us at the Seattle Seahawks. And he had this deep, rich insight that changed me. And the rich insight was, I knew I was good. I knew that I could get it done. But if I wanted to keep winning and I wanted to see what we're capable of, I needed to be a great teammate. So before I would leave my house, I would close my eyes and I would see every coach and every teammate. And one by one, I would imagine how I will be great for them today. What did he need? What did she need? And I'd close my eyes and I'd think about how I was going to be a great teammate to that person. And then I'd arrive at the facility and I've already done all this mental imagery work, not about me making jumpers, but how I'm going to be a great teammate to my people. And that, I don't know. I mean, is that a 4% rise in tide? Is that a 12% rise? Is it a 1? Whatever it is, it's a net rise in tide where all boats are floated at an elevated way. That is like a brilliant example of being a great teammate. First, you use your mind. And this is what the greats do. They use their mind to create a compelling future. They use their mind to see themselves being great. They use their mind to practice skills that they can't otherwise practice in practice because you can't quite get that intensity of a game day. But when we close our eyes, we can write and create whatever movie we want. Mental imagery is foundational for imagining and being your very best in future states. So he was just doing it and casting his gaze on being a great teammate.
What I love about that, it feels like it's so relatable. It's so digestible. It feels like on a Tuesday, I would know what to do. If I thought about each person on my team, I would know what to do. It's just turning on that switch.
Well, I did this for us today, is that before I left my house, I closed my eyes and I thought, how am I going to be a great partner for you today? And I needed to feel and see myself. It was roots and reach, is that I needed to be grounded and also tell the stories in ways that could help you go, oh, I see it. Oh, so that was my way to be a good teammate for you. And that can happen for our spouses. That can happen for us to our kids as teammates, to our coworkers. It can happen every day. It's a radical practice.
Whoa.
It's a loving practice.
I feel like everyone just heard that differently. I think everything that you've been talking about is fascinating. I think that anyone watching, anyone listening could say that's fascinating. But that practice, I think everyone could say that's within reach, that's doable. And I think that idea of, the tide rising, we would probably all feel it.
I want to be in that relationship with my spouse, with my wife, where, we've been together 30 some years. So we are flat out best friends. We are great partners to each other. And that is hard earned. We should come back to that at some point. But think about how loving that is when you close your eyes and you think about how can I be a great partner, great teammate, fill in the words. How can I be great for that person? Imagine if that person is doing it for you. Whew. Like it's really cool. And so that's one of the practices we would do at the Seattle Seahawks is we're very intentional about how are we going to be great for each other? What does a great teammate look like? And then I'll pivot over to the indoor women's volleyball Olympic team that I spent time with. We did the same thing. How do you want to be coached by your teammate? What makes a great teammate? How are you going to show up, to your teammates in ways that are in service of them. But before you do any of that stuff, you got to be present. You got to know how to have a command of yourself so that you can be in service of someone else. Because if you're just bombarded with all the intensity of the world, man, I'm just trying to keep myself together, you can't be there for anyone. You'll never be on a great team. If you're constantly sucking the resources from others to help you, and if you don't know how to be fully present, have that spark in your eye, that fire in your belly, that deep love for the uncertainty, the magic that is just about ready to, take place. Like if you can't do that and you're expecting like to be a great teammate, that's a joke.
As you're describing this, I feel like it must be amazing to be in your shoes. If I just put myself there for a minute, obviously you're one of the world's leading teachers in high performance. You've been a guide for many, you've been a coach, but you're also in the front row seat to learn from some of the highest performing people in the world. What else have you learned that you've kind of, been able to take the lesson towards you and put into practice?
Early in my career, 25 years ago, people would ask, like, what are the commonalities of the greats? And I thought, early on, I was like, man, I should know that. And I didn't. And one is I didn't have enough time to really embody and understand. So early on, I just, was afforded reading the research and a couple, pro athletes here and there. And then probably mid-stride, I was like, oh, you know what? These themes keep showing up. Things like we spoke about. Things like making a fundamental commitment, relentless commitment to the truth, this edge pushing, to unlock. And those are all like really, really clear and actionable. Now I think about it totally differently. And it's the relationship in their life that sets the whole thing apart. And so it's the relationship they hold with themselves, and it's the relationship with one significant other. And that is like the foundation of it. First and foremost, your relationship with yourself. And that could involve a spiritual framework as well. Like your relationship with God, if you choose, or the cosmos, or all 11 world religions have some way of thinking about the larger bit and your relationship to it. So your relationship with self and your relationship with at least one other. And that's a commonality. It doesn't mean that relationship is wonderful or healthy, but when it is, you're set up, or they are set up for a longer path. And so I point to the relationship now.
Yeah, I find that just so accessible. Feels like, all the stuff that feels like, we may or may not be at an elite level of performance, but where does it start? And then it'd be surprising to see how far that actually goes.
Yeah. And so for me, the relationship really, it's a deep commitment to my partner, my wife. And it's a deep commitment to enjoying the company I keep within myself. And that though, if you make those two commitments, love yourself and love others, to be overly simplistic, it's a keyhole for the whole thing. Again, it's back to you're in control of that. It's not how much people love you or who loves you or who supports you. It's actually how well do you love yourself, and how well are you in love with this wild kind of experience of life, and how well do you love others? And when that takes place, and that's what I've come to learn. So early in my career, it was more academic. And then I was trying to be almost like surgical with the application of a set of characteristics, like it's those. And then I realized that there's a deeper contour to this human experience. And it sounds, I have to be careful when I say the words, because it falls far below the experience. It's Cat Stevens, by the way. I listen to my words and they fall far below.
A big fan.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to see him live in concert, like one of his last concerts. It was magical. He's
unreal.
talk about an edge pusher. Talk about a frontier, to be chased out of the United States of America for being, a revolutionist, a potential like threat to amazing. Anyways, so I listen to these words and they definitely fall far below, because when I just say like the way that you hold your relationship with yourself and at least one significant other, you're in the driver's seat when you do that.
As you're describing it, even, the tone as you describe it, and you talk about those contours and nuances, I keep going back to this Red Bull story where, somebody's afraid of their life, and like for legitimate reasons, and not just afraid of their life, afraid of being in a confined capsule for 5.5 hours, like stuff that's like truly scary. And you're helping them work through it. And I was wondering, like, how do you do that? Like, I get that there's probably techniques, but there's probably a lot of contour in that. Like, what was at stake in that scenario? Like, what was going through? Like, how hard was that of an experience for them to work through? What was at stake, and what were the contours that allowed you to really unlock it all?
Everything that I'll share with you about this story has been already documented. So this is, as a licensed psychologist, I would never bring forward the things that I don't have the permission to do, but this has all been documented, so I can speak openly about it. Is that it first began with a question: what do you really want? And he says, I know. I'm stuck. But what I know is that I would rather go and die than never go. There it is. That's the answer. What do you really, really want? So walking away was more painful than going and dying. And I think that that is emblematic for life. I am not afraid of dying. I am afraid, deeply afraid, of living a life that lacks meaning, of living a life that is just below the surface of what a human, myself, is capable of. And there's far more that I need to invest in, to grow into. So that's what he's saying. The haunting of playing this game with yourself because you didn't have the skills or you're unwilling to go for the thing that you really wanted. That to me feels terrifying. And so that's where it started. That's another massive unlock, which we're speaking to. Like, what do you really, really want in your life? And then position yourself to be, it's called high self-efficacy. It's a psychological term for feeling powerful in this topsy-turvy world, is that invest in the feeling of being powerful to choose your experience in life. And so I was unbiased. Whether you go or not go, I just need to know. And then come to find out the 5 areas of risk. One, if he were to pass through a transonic experience, the speed of sound with drag on his feet and his legs, would his arms and his legs rip off? It's terrifying. That was a real risk. Another risk was when he was able to open the capsule door at 128,000 feet. And it's one of the most hostile environments of the world because the temperature and you cannot last in that without a spacesuit. If he were to be able to get to the ledge, and I say if, because no one's ever tested this door at 128,000 feet. The door was made by the team. They didn't totally know if it could open. So if he could get the door open and scoot himself to the edge and then pull himself up and stand on this ledge that he was going to jump from, and on that ledge, his feet were dangling over, just his toes were dangling over it. So the platform of the ledge was not even big enough to account for his full foot. That when he were to jump, because there was no gravitational pull, and he's one of the best in the world skydivers, base jumpers, and he knows how to work his way through air very, very well. But because there's no gravity or there's no air to push against because it's so thin there, if he were to go into a flat spin and his head and his body were spinning, around in a circle, that all the blood would rush to his feet and his head. And he had about 5 seconds before he would turn into a vegetable. And I say that kind of casually and kind of like crudely, but he would basically land, but he would land without any faculty from his brain because of the experience or in his brain. And so there we are, this person that we all love, that we're supporting in mission control, watching on the monitor, and we're celebrating like wild people that he's figured that he's on the edge, he's ready to jump, he jumps, and it's working, and all of a sudden we see he's in a flat spin. I've never felt the combination of emotions in that moment. This was a man that I deeply care for. I love him. He has committed everything to his dream. He has committed everything into this mission, put his life on the line, trusted me, trusted our work, did the work. There is nothing in the world of the human experience has a 0% success or a 100% success rate. There's margins. And here he is in a flat spin. Because he had the psychological skills to stay in the capsule, and he's the best in the world, we all assumed he would absolutely navigate this. And he's in a flat spin. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I've got about 2 seconds left. My stomach is in knots. I've got this adrenaline, kind of nervousness, excitement, sick to my stomach cocktail. Everybody did in mission control. And right at the edge, we don't know how he did it. He figured it out. He got his body together, his head together, and he was able to tilt his head downward in a spacesuit, which it doesn't make sense to us how he did it. And he came out of it. And when we asked him afterwards, like, how did you do it? He said, all I could hear was my coach, his technical coach, saying, pull your arms in, pull your arms in, pull your arms in. And 3 seconds, pull your arms in, So he pulls his arms in, which changed his trajectory, and it allowed him to like figure out how to gain some control in a nearly uncontrollable environment. And he did it. And so then I reflect back, like, he was so clear that he could hear the whisper of his coach's voice in his mind. And he didn't go to, oh no, oh God, here it is, I'm dead, what have I done? He didn't go to panic. He went to clarity, to white space, so that the one thing that could emerge was the whisper from his coach saying, get your arms together, pull your arms in. Well, I mean, that's exactly how I hope that I can live my life. So clear that the wisdom emerges from within, and you have the faculty to be able to follow that wisdom.
It's in that story, it feels like the connection that I've been hearing you talk about, which is fascinating, that connection between kind of the esoteric, the philosophical, the awareness, to then the concrete, like if there's something really at stake. And somehow that needs to help be infused here to help you do something differently. And there's a real, like, again, those reps, those sets and those reps, I'm sure is what that connective tissue becomes. Yeah,
that's good, because the sets and reps, let's do awareness training first. So, mindfulness a la meditation, it's wonderful, and it can be challenging. Like, am I doing it right? How come I can't settle my mind down? It's the practice of restarting 1,000 times in a 10-minute meditation. And each time your mind wanders from the present, from the task at hand, following your inhale or following your exhale, whatever the simple task is, and it wanders somewhere. And as soon as you catch it, as soon as you're aware that your mind is not focused on the thing you intended to focus on, that's the moment to celebrate. Like, oh, look, I'm aware that I am not where I wanted my mind to be. So then you gently, quickly, swiftly return back to the task at hand without critique, without judgment, without bite, without anything. You figure out a way how to come right back. And over time, when you are more aware of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, like I talked about before, when you are more aware and you have the skill to refocus back when you're away from, the most important thing in the moment, you now have a chance to deeply tune to the unfolding, unpredictable present moment. This moment, your entire community that's listening, this moment is completely unpredictable to me too. Even though I'm about to choose a new sentence, I don't know what's going to emerge. But if I'm clouded in my head and I'm critical and I'm noisy in there and I'm worrying about you or how this might go, I'm so saturated with the noise that I can't get to the signal. And the signal is just allowing this to take place to my best abilities. And that's what the greats do. It's not esoteric. It is foundational to have like clarity of how you work, so that when you're in a high speed, demanding, exacting environment, you know how to be open and clear with the right thought and the right action for that unique moment. And that becomes the artistic way of life. And that happens in bedrooms, it happens in boardrooms, it happens in living rooms, it happens in, playing fields. It's everywhere we go.
That's that golden thread.
That's exactly it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, there must be, I've heard that you've got a morning routine. You've got a morning, and so there must be, again, like the sets and reps of this. What's your routine in the morning?
Yeah, cool. First order of business is that morning routines are great. And breaking your routine is equally great. And so the last thing we want to do is create some rigidity around routines or anything that you do in life. One of the great martial artists of all time, Bruce Lee, has a famous insight that you need to know structure to break structure. You need to know the forms to break forms. So first and foremost is like a morning mindset routine is about the structure, but not as an end in of itself. It's part of the process to be able to have flexibility and break structure. So there's a lot of talk about having a morning routine and morning da-da-da-da. Yes, and so that you can adjust accordingly. But I have something that I've been practicing for a long time. Most of the world-class performers I work with are doing some form of what I'll suggest to you. And I'll give you the definition of it. And you can also, we'll send you the audio file for free, so that you can have it and your community can have access to it. Just send us an email.
Thank you.
Or actually, I think we've got it online, which is findingmastery.com/morning mindset. And we'll make sure that we get you the right link if that's not it. But there's a four-step process. It's really simple. You're still in bed. Before you tune to the outside world, tune to the inside world. One breath. That's it. Send a signal to your brain and to the circuitry of your brain that you're in control of the show. Because a long exhale sends a signal that we're safe. When we were chased by wildebeest not that long ago, and we got away from them, we'd have a long exhale.
One breath.
So a long exhale is paired with safety. So the first thing in the morning, before you tune to your email, anything, one long exhale. The second is one thought of gratitude. And this is not a checklist, but this is just a way for you to hold space to wake up a particular circuitry in the brain that is not threat detection, but is optimization. And the optimization is really to be able to deeply connect to something that you're grateful for. It's a different circuitry in the brain. Because once we start going through the day, most of our brain circuitry is designed to find the dangers and mitigate them. If we can start our day training a different part of our brain, which is like what's good, it sets us up for a whole different way to experience life later. And so it's just feel one thing that you're grateful for. One breath, one gratitude. Step 3 is one intention. So now you close your eyes and you're just imagining specific times in the day that on how you want to show up, how you want to be. So what's my intention for today? And the fourth is you take your sheets off, kind of flip over to the side of your bed, stand up or just kind of be in that position for a moment and just be where your body is. So that's it. Be present. One breath, one gratitude, one intention, be present. And those 4 things, whether that takes you 60 seconds or you extend each one of them, it's like 3 minutes, 6 minutes, you're training particular circuitry in your brain to counterbalance all of the stress and threat and all the other stuff in the modern uncertain world that you're about to enter.
Cool. We're going to make sure we get that right link.
Yeah, cool.
What was the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
how to be a great teammate. So I'm so clear how powerful that is now because I started off really more interested in my pursuit than helping other people. And so there's a self-absorbed self nature that was part of my early experience. And it nearly cost me everything. Almost lost my marriage. It was bad. It was as bad as you can imagine. And it was primarily because of my doing, my selfishness. So being a great partner that really sees and understands the other person's experience, it took me way too long to really embrace that. Intellectually, I could understand it. I knew it was there, but it wasn't until I got down to the deep pain of almost losing everything that mattered to me that I thought, this is what I need to change.
Do you hope your legacy is?
I do not care. I have no interest in legacy. It's a word that does not matter to me.
Wow. I mean, I think back, I get the pleasure of doing the research, coming into the room to have this conversation so I can picture the work that's preceded this conversation. And so it's always fun to ask, after all of that, what's next?
What's next for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the image of that guides me is like a pebble in the pond. And so if I become the largest pebble I can imagine with a great weight that I'm able to create change across first my family unit and then, and it just widens out. And so what's next is the pebble in the pond expressed with a bigger ripple. And that bigger ripple, I can stitch it down to teaching and training others how to be fully present in their life so that they can eloquently adjust and understand what they're capable of. So that's what's next is keep pressing on figuring out the right ways to help people work from the inside out to unlock the potential that lies dormant by investing in the psychological skills that I know open the aperture of what's possible. The best in the world have taught it to me. The laboratory is really clear. And so what's next is figuring out the right communities, environments that are great partners to be able to express that work. And so it is about the work. It's not about the ripple. The ripple is the after effect to doing the work. And the work, just to be concrete, is the study of yourself and developing the psychological, the mental skills, if you will, to be your very best.
Dr. Michael Gervais, this has been a masterclass.
This is so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you for introducing me to your community and hosting the space for me to talk about the things that I love talking about. So I'm super grateful. Thank you.